Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in your life when you realize that not every battle requires your voice. Not every accusation needs your explanation. Not every season demands your noise. There is a level of maturity, a depth of wisdom, strength of spirit that teaches you the value of silence, not as weakness, not as surrender, but as strategy. Some of you have wasted too much energy trying to defend yourself to people who already made up their minds about you. You've tried to explain your intentions to ears that were never meant to understand you. You've tried to justify your journey to people who have never walked your path. But hear this today, your growth will speak louder than your explanations. Your results will echo louder than your rebuttals. Your elevation will silence everything they ever said. Silence is not the absence of power. Silence is power. It is the discipline of knowing when to speak and when to stand still. It is the strength to hold your peace while life rearranges the pieces. It is the courage to stay focused, to stay grounded, to stay committed while the noise around you tries to pull you out of your purpose. Sometimes God separates you from the crowd because your next level requires privacy. Not everyone can witness the construction of greatness. Foundations are not built in stadiums. They are built in silence. Roots grow in the dark long before the tree stands in the light. You are in a season where your silence is preparing you for a stage that your noise could never reach. Don't waste your voice arguing with people who don't see your value. Don't waste your spirit trying to prove what God already validated. Let them talk, misunderstand, let them assume. Your job is not to correct their opinions. Your job is to fulfill your calling. Because when elevation comes, when doors open, when favor finds you, when the blessing manifests, you won't need to say a word. The very people who doubted you will witness the evidence. The same people who tried to discredit you will see the undeniable proof. The ones who underestimated you will watch you rise in real time. Silence is the womb of transformation. It is the sacred space where you rebuild your confidence, renew your mind, strengthen your spirit, and refine your character. It is where God reshapes you, repositions you, and prepares you to handle what you've been praying for. So stay quiet and keep working. Stay focused and keep growing. Stay humble and keep moving. Your silence is not emptiness, it is preparation. Your silence is not weakness, it is alignment. Your silence is not retreat, it is strategy. And when the fullness of time comes, when the preparation meets the opportunity, when the seed meets the soil, the vision meets a manifestation, our elevation will speak for you. Your success will defend you. Your breakthrough will respond for you. You won't need to clap back. You won't need to argue. You won't need to explain. There is a remarkable kind of strength that is often misunderstood in this noisy world. People are quick to equate silence with surrender, with fear, with passiveness, or with not having anything to say. But silence, when understood through the lens of wisdom and maturity, is one of the most powerful strategies a person can ever learn to master. It is not a lack of response. It is a deliberate response. It is not an absence of power. It is power under control. Silence is a decision, a discipline, a strategy that allows you to rise above the noise instead of being swallowed by it. There are moments in life when speaking is easy, even tempting. When someone misunderstands you, the instinct is to correct them. When someone disrespects you, the instinct is to respond. When someone questions your worth, the instinct is to prove yourself. But silence teaches you that not every situation deserves your energy. Not every battle is worth fighting. Every attack requires a reaction. Silence is not stepping back, it is stepping above. It elevates you beyond the reach of unnecessary conflict and protects you from wasting energy on people who are not ready to understand you in the first place. When you stay silent, it does not mean you didn't hear. It means you chose not to let the noise dictate your direction. It means you decided to preserve your peace, your focus, and your purpose. True strength is not found in how loudly you can respond. It is found in how deeply you can restrain yourself, how intentionally you can choose stillness when everything around you is pulling you toward reaction. Silence is also the place where clarity is born. When life becomes overwhelming, when emotions are stirred, when opinions from others start clouding your vision, silence becomes the safe haven where your thoughts settle and your spirit aligns. In silence, you can hear the voice of your internal compass. In silence, your mind can distinguish between what is real and what is temporary. In silence, you find the wisdom that noise often tries to bury. Quiet spirit is not a weak spirit, it is a focused one. Silence gives you the ability to observe without reacting, to think without interruption, plan without distraction. When you refrain from speaking, you give yourself the space to consider your next step instead of being pushed into impulsive decisions by emotions. Silence gives you the advantage of time to reflect, time to evaluate, time to understand which direction aligns with your purpose and which road leads nowhere. Some of the greatest breakthroughs happen when your mouth is still but your mind is active. Silence allows you to analyze situations from a higher perspective. It prevents you from saying things you will later regret, and it helps you recognize opportunities that noise would have drowned out. Some people lose blessings not because they lack talent or purpose, but because they let noise push them into battles that were never theirs to fight. Silence shields you from that trap. Silence is also a mark of emotional strength. Anyone can react, anyone can argue, anyone can clap back. It takes real discipline to remain unmoved when you're provoked or misunderstood. It takes maturity to recognize that your value does not decrease because someone cannot see it. It takes confidence to know that your truth does not become false simply because someone speaks louder. Silence demonstrates that you are not controlled by external chaos, but guided by internal stability. When you choose silence, you are not giving up the fight, you are choosing the right fight. You are refusing to waste your voice on people who thrive on conflict. You are refusing to lower yourself to battles that distract you from your purpose. You are refusing to let temporary emotions destroy long-term peace. Silence is the strategy of someone who knows their worth, understands their journey, and has nothing to prove to anyone who wasn't meant to walk with them. Silence also exposes intentions. When you stop explaining, people reveal what they truly believed all along. When you stop defending yourself, people show their true loyalty. When you stop reacting, the ones who were using your reactions to control you lose their power. Silence helps you see who is with you, who is against you, and who was simply around because they fed off your responses. When you learn this, you become untouchable, not because you are loud, but because you are grounded. Silence also creates room for elevation. Many times, breakthroughs require privacy. Growth needs quiet. Transformation needs space. A seed does its greatest work underground before anyone sees it sprout. In the same way, your silent seasons are the seasons where you build, heal, grow, strengthen, and align. People may think nothing is happening. Silence is where the foundation is laid. By the time they hear your success, the work has already been done in the unseen. Your silence allows your actions to speak with more power than your words ever could. There is a level of achievement that invalidates every criticism out you saying a single thing. There is a level of elevation where your success silences every rumor. There is a level of transformation that makes every person who doubted you rethink their entire narrative. Silence is powerful because when the time is right, your results do the talking in a language no one can deny. Silence also teaches you patience. It shows you that not every answer needs to be immediate. Not every conflict needs your participation, and not every moment is the right moment to speak. Silence slows you down enough to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with emotion. It builds endurance, strengthens your spirit, and sharpens your discernment. One of the greatest truths about silence is this: silence holds the power to heal. When you quiet the world, you can finally hear yourself. You can hear your needs, your pain, your hopes, your fears, your dreams. You reconnect with the parts of you that noise made you ignore. Silence brings you back to yourself. Silence is strategic power, not weakness, because it is the choice to rise above noise, to protect your peace, to preserve your energy, and to position yourself for elevation. It is the confidence of someone who knows their future is too important to be wasted on unnecessary words. It is the discipline of someone whose purpose speaks louder than their pride. And it is the wisdom of someone who understands that the loudest victories are often born in the quietest moments. Silence is where your strength grows, where your clarity forms, where your strategy develops, and where your elevation begins. You don't need to shout to be powerful. You don't need to defend yourself to prove your worth. Just stay silent, stay focused, and stay grounded. Because the world may not hear your silence now, it will hear the sound of your elevation later. There comes a point in life when you realize that no matter how much you explain yourself, no matter how clearly you speak, and no matter how honest your intentions are, some people will still misunderstand you. They will question your motives, distort your actions, minimize your progress, or doubt your journey simply because they cannot see what you see. They don't carry your vision, your calling, your assignment, or your destiny. That's why you must reach a level of maturity where you stop exhausting yourself trying to convince people who are not even capable of understanding the blueprint of your life. You must learn to let your elevation speak for you. Your elevation carries a voice stronger than any argument you could ever present, carries a power that explanations lack. Explaining yourself requires words. Elevation requires growth. Explanations try to persuade people. Elevation makes persuasion unnecessary. Words can be disputed. Evidence cannot. And when you rise, when you evolve, when you transform, when you step into the fullness of who you were meant to be, your progress speaks a language that even your enemies cannot deny. You don't need to justify why you are healing. You don't need to explain why you are growing. You don't need to defend why you walked away, why you changed direction, or why you chose peace over chaos. Those who truly understand your heart never needed the explanation, and those who misunderstood you would never have accepted it anyway. That's why elevation is such a powerful response. It bypasses human debate and goes straight to undeniable reality. The truth is, people often doubt you because they are measuring you by an old version of yourself. They remember your mistakes, your struggles, your weakness, inexperience, your fears. They are stuck on chapters that you have already outgrown. They compare your present potential to their past perception. Sometimes God allows them to keep their outdated opinions because He wants your elevation to surprise them. He wants your transformation to silence them. He wants the growth in you to reveal what words never could. Elevation doesn't happen overnight, and that's what makes it so powerful. It is the product of discipline, sacrifice, prayer, focus, and resilience. While people are watching your present, God is working on your future. While critics are analyzing your steps, God is arranging your path. While doubters are questioning your motives, God is strengthening your character. When the appointed season arrives, when what you've been building in silence finally rises to the surface, your elevation will answer questions you never responded to. It will clear your name without you defending yourself. It will validate your decisions without you explaining them. It will reveal your purpose without you debating it. When you elevate, you step into a realm where your life becomes the evidence. Your growth becomes the proof. Your transformation becomes the testimony. The same people who questioned you will witness a reality they can no longer deny. They won't need to hear your explanations because your results will speak with more clarity, more strength, and more authority than any speech could ever deliver. Elevation is not just about rising financially or socially, it's about rising internally. It is the expansion of your mind, the strengthening of your spirit, the calming of your emotions, the sharpening of your character. It is becoming more patient, more disciplined, more focused, more discerning. When you elevate on the inside, the outside follows. When your inner elevation starts showing up externally in your decisions, your behavior, your growth, your peace, it automatically silences those who once misjudged you. There is something profoundly powerful about elevation because it happens in layers. You rise in your thinking before you rise in your living. You elevate in your discipline before you elevate in your opportunities. You grow in your identity before you grow in your influence. And when this alignment begins to manifest, people see a version of you that explanations could have never described. They see you walking differently, speaking differently, moving differently. They see you refusing to react to negativity, refusing to chase validation, refusing to engage in petty conflict. They see a transformation so real that they have no choice but to acknowledge it. Beauty of elevation is that it doesn't just silence critics, it heals you. It frees you from the need for validation. It releases you from the pressure to be understood. It liberates you from the expectation that everyone should support your journey. Some people weren't meant to understand your process. Some weren't designed to walk beside you. And some were never spiritually equipped to see who you were becoming. That's why explanations fail, because you are speaking to people who cannot comprehend the language of your future. Elevation also teaches you patience. It reminds you that your journey is not measured by how quickly people understand you, but by how faithfully you continue to grow, evolve, and obey your calling. You don't rise to prove them wrong. You rise because rising is part of your destiny. You elevate because staying the same would betray who you are meant to be. Every level you reach is a chapter in your story, and every chapter reveals something that explanations alone cannot. So keep building, keep growing, keep healing, keep working. Keep believing and keep walking the path that aligns with your purpose. Let your silence protect you. Let your discipline guide you. Focus strengthen you. Let your transformation unveil you. There is a type of exhaustion that doesn't come from work or responsibilities, but from constantly trying to justify yourself to people who have no intention of seeing you clearly. You can pour out your heart, explain your motives, clarify your actions, and speak your truth with all the sincerity you possess. And still, some individuals will twist your words, misinterpret your intentions, and judge you through the lens of their own insecurities. It is one of the most draining experiences in life. And yet, at some point, wisdom teaches you a powerful lesson. You don't need to defend yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. There are people in this world who do not listen to understand. They listen to respond, to criticize, or to confirm their assumptions. Their minds are already made up before you open your mouth. Their opinions are shaped not by who you are, but by who they need you to be to validate their own narratives. Trying to convince these people is like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. No matter how much effort you put in, it will never stay. And the truth is, you were never meant to live your life trying to fix the perceptions of those who refuse to see you clearly. Some people misunderstand you because they don't want to understand you. Understanding would require them to let go of their preconceived stories. It would require them to confront truths about themselves. It would require maturity, empathy, and emotional depth. And it is much easier for them to place the blame on you than to reflect on their own behaviors. If you defend yourself to these people, you waste energy that should be invested in growing, healing, and building the life you are meant to live. When someone is committed to misunderstanding you, no explanation will ever be enough. They will find a way to twist your words, question your motives, or devalue your truth. You could give them facts, timelines, context, and complete transparency, yet they will still choose the version of the story that suits their comfort. Why? Because their misunderstanding of you isn't accidental, it is intentional. It protects their ego, it fuels their narrative, it feeds their insecurities. Sometimes it keeps them from acknowledging the role they played in the situation. Defending yourself to people like this becomes a trap. It hooks you into cycles of emotional depletion. It keeps you engaging in conversations that go nowhere, pulls you away from your growth, and keeps you entangled in battles that drain your spirit. The more you try to explain your heart to someone who doesn't want to see it, the more you lose sight of yourself. There is a moment when you must step back and realize that your peace is more valuable than their approval. Your clarity is more important than their confusion. Your truth does not become invalid just because they refuse to accept it. Your worth does not decrease because they fail to recognize it. Their misunderstanding of you is not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of who they choose to be. There is tremendous power in reaching the point where you stop over explaining yourself. When you no longer feel obligated to convince someone of your worth or justify decisions that were made for your well-being, You reclaim your energy and dignity. You stop trying to keep people in your life who are not meant to be there. You stop begging for understanding from those who cannot offer it. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into their limited perspective. Some people will always interpret your silence as guilt, your confidence as arrogance, your peace as indifference, your boundaries as disrespect, or your growth as betrayal. But that is not your burden to carry. You cannot control how others choose to perceive you. You cannot control their biases, their insecurities, or their unwillingness to see the full picture. What you can control is your response. And sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Choosing not to defend yourself is not weakness. It is strength. It is the strength of knowing your truth so deeply that someone else's misinterpretation can no longer shake you. It is the strength of understanding that people committed to misunderstanding you are not your audience. It is the strength of recognizing that validation from the wrong crowd will never bring you peace. When your heart is right, when your intentions are pure, when you know you acted with integrity, you can stand still and let the truth take care of itself. Not everyone deserves access to your explanations. Everyone has earned a seat at the table where your vulnerability sits. Not everyone is meant to hear your heart. And the more you grow, the more you learn that silence is not retreat, it is protection. It protects your spirit from being trampled by those who cannot hold it with care. Protects your peace from being disrupted by unnecessary conflict. It protects your focus from being distracted by meaningless debates. People misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them create stories in their minds if they must. Your job is not to chase after every rumor or correct every misconception. Your job is to stay aligned with your purpose, your calling, your growth, and your truth. Your job is to live in such a way that your character speaks louder than their words. Your job is to continue walking with integrity even when others choose to walk in ignorance. Over time, your actions will reveal what your explanations could never convince. Over time, your consistency will expose what their assumptions tried to hide. Over time, your character will shine through the fog of their confusion. Over time, your life will testify on your behalf. Some people will eventually realize they were wrong about you, not because you defended yourself, but because your elevation, your peace, and your growth told the real story. And for those who never understand you, let it be. Their misunderstanding of you will not stop your destiny. Their judgment will not block your blessings. Their narrative will not hinder your progress. You were never meant to live for their approval anyway. Release the need to explain, to justify, to persuade. Stand firm in who you are. Walk boldly in your truth. And trust that the right people, the ones who matter, the ones who see clearly, the ones who love honestly, will never need an explanation to understand your heart. They will see you. They will value you. They will recognize you without you having to force clarity. Greatness is a word that many people love to admire, but very few understand the process behind it. They see the results, the spotlight, the confidence, the success, but they rarely see the nights of uncertainty, the seasons of struggle, the hours of preparation, and the moments of doubt that were endured in silence. The truth is simple yet profound. Greatness is built in private, not on the stage, not in the applause, not in the praise of people, but in the quiet, unseen places where discipline grows, character is shaped, purpose is strengthened. There is something sacred about the private seasons of your life. These are the moments when no one is watching, no one is applauding, when no one is validating your efforts. It is in these hidden periods that your true self emerges. When nobody is there to reward you, you learn to reward yourself. When nobody acknowledges your effort, you learn to keep going for reasons deeper than recognition. Nobody notices your progress. You realize that your growth is not meant to be performed. It is meant to be lived. Greatness requires depth, and depth is only developed away from the noise. Think about the roots of a tree. Before the trunk rises, before the branches stretch, before the leaves appear, the roots grow underground, quietly, steadily, without any attention. Nobody celebrates the roots, but without them, the tree collapses. In the same way, your private work lays the groundwork for your public elevation. The world may never applaud the nights you studied alone, the mornings you woke up early to train, the prayers you whispered when no one heard, or the sacrifices you made in silence. These are the very things that strengthen your foundation. In private, you learn to confront yourself. You face your fears honestly without pretending to be stronger than you are. You acknowledge your weaknesses and commit to improving them. You look at the parts of yourself that the world doesn't see, the insecurities, the doubts, the mistakes, and you deal with them head on. Greatness requires this level of transparency with yourself. It demands honesty, humility, and a willingness to grow even when it's uncomfortable. Private season strips away ego and teaches you discipline. You cannot build something powerful while being distracted by an audience. You cannot shape your future while trying to impress people who don't even understand your journey. That is why the process of greatness happens in the shadows. Privacy protects you while transformation is happening. It gives you the freedom to fail without judgment, to experiment without pressure, to restart without embarrassment. You cannot master your craft under constant scrutiny. You need the quiet to refine your skills, the space to improve, the time to develop your identity before the world sees the final product. Many people want the stage, but not the preparation. They want recognition without the responsibility. They want the title without the training. Greatness does not appear suddenly. It is the cumulative result of hours, days, months, and years of unseen effort. It is discipline practiced consistently. It is sacrifice embraced willingly. It is focus sharpened through repetition and difficulty. And all of this happens far from the public eye. There is also a divine purpose in your private development. Not every season is meant to be visible. Not every blessing is meant to be announced. Every breakthrough is meant to be shared. Sometimes the silence is intentional. Sometimes the obscurity is protective. Sometimes the isolation is preparation. You are hidden. You are being shaped. When you feel unseen, you are being strengthened. When you feel forgotten, you are actually being prepared. The private process is where God builds your resilience. He teaches you how to stand when no one stands with you. He shows you who you are without the influence of others. He removes people and distractions that would interfere with your purpose. He develops your faith, your endurance, your wisdom, and your ability to handle the weight of what you've been called to carry. If you were elevated too soon, the pressure would crush you. But in private, your capacity is stretched to match the magnitude of your calling. Greatness also requires consistency. Consistency is a deeply personal discipline. It is easy to be motivated when others are cheering you on. True greatness is built on the days when no one is watching, when you don't feel inspired, when the results are slow, and when progress is invisible. It is built in the moments when you choose discipline over comfort, purpose over pleasure, and commitment over convenience. These silent sacrifices are what separate those who dream of greatness from those who actually achieve it. In private, you learn patience because growth takes time. You learn humility because nobody is praising you. You learn focus because there are fewer distractions. You learn resilience because you face battles alone. And you learn faith because you must trust in the unseen future without the evidence of success yet. The time is right. The private work will reveal itself publicly. Elevation always comes after preparation. Just like the tree eventually pushes above the soil, your greatness will eventually break through into visibility. And when it does, people will assume it happens suddenly. They will call it talent, luck, or overnight success. But you will know the truth. You will know the sacrifices you made, the discipline you built, the tears you shed, the fears you overcame, and the battles you fought when no one was there to witness them. Your public success will be a reflection of your private perseverance. Greatness built in private carries a different kind of weight. It is stable because the foundation is strong. It is graceful because the character is matured. It is sustainable because the discipline is deep. It is authentic because it wasn't built for approval. It was built for purpose. So if you are in a quiet season, don't despise it. If you feel unseen, don't feel forgotten. If your work is invisible, don't believe it is insignificant. This is your preparation ground. This is where you become who you are meant to be. This is where you develop everything that the next level will require. What you build in private determines what you can carry in public. Advancement to a higher stage of life, performance, or personal evolution is rarely achieved without a deliberate act of separation. This principle is not rooted in emotion, but in the structural realities of growth. Every significant transition requires the removal of certain influences that conflict with the direction in which one intends to progress. Separation, in this context, is not an act of hostility. It is a strategic recalibration of one's environment, priorities, and internal frameworks to sustain long-term development. When individuals feel confined, stagnant, or misaligned with their potential, causative factors are often embedded in their proximity to systems, people, or routines that no longer serve their intended trajectory. Operates on an asymmetrical demand curve. The next level in any domain, whether professional, spiritual, intellectual, personal, places requirements that current habits cannot meet. The gap between who a person is and who they are becoming is bridged not solely by acquisition of new skills, but by the removal of outdated ones. Separation becomes a technical necessity rather than a philosophical ideal. It is the process through which noise is reduced, clarity is produced, internal bandwidth is reallocated toward the pursuits that matter. Without such separation, even the most ambitious individual experiences diminishing returns on energy and focus because their environment remains optimized for a version of themselves they no longer intend to maintain. It is important to recognize that separation often begins internally. Cognitive and emotional detachment from old narratives must occur before external adjustments can be executed effectively. Many individuals remain psychologically bound to identities constructed during earlier stages of life, identities shaped by survival needs, limited exposure, or social conditioning. These internal attachments generate friction whenever one attempts to move toward a more advanced version of themselves. The next level demands a recalibration of self-concept. The individual must develop a mental framework that can sustain delayed gratification, tolerate periods of discomfort, and withstand temporary isolation. Separation, therefore, becomes both a mental discipline and an environmental strategy. Furthermore, the process typically introduces a temporary period of instability. When a person distances themselves from familiar structures, they enter an uncharted space where previous forms of validation, support, or predictability are no longer accessible. This instability should not be misinterpreted as regression. Rather, it is the transitional volatility that precedes stabilization. In technical terms, systems undergoing transformation often exhibit turbulence before reaching a higher equilibrium. Human development follows a similar trajectory. Discomfort inherent in separation is a product of detaching from established patterns while simultaneously constructing new ones that better align with future ambitions. Another factor involves relationships. Human behavior is strongly influenced by proximity. Social environments function as regulatory mechanisms that shape habits, beliefs, and aspirations. When a person aspires to elevate their life, yet remains embedded in networks that reinforce complacency, distraction, or self-limiting norms, progress becomes statistically improbable. Separating from certain relationships is not an indictment of the individuals involved. It is an acknowledgement of misalignment in values, pace, or vision. The next level requires collaboration with those who operate at higher levels of discipline, intellect, or ambition. Without creating space for such alignment, one unconsciously caps their own potential. At the same time, separation extends beyond human relationships. It includes distancing oneself from inefficient routines, unproductive environments, and habitual distractions. Many individuals experience stagnation not because they lack capability, but because their daily structures are not designed to support complex goals. Progress requires time, concentration, and strategic resource allocation. When these are consistently absorbed by low-value activities, there is insufficient capacity to pursue higher ambitions. Separation, therefore, serves as a method of operational optimization. It eliminates energy leaks and reallocates cognitive resources toward meaningful advancement. Identity shifts also play a significant role. Every new level requires an upgraded self-operating system, an internal set of standards that regulates behavior and decision-making. This internal system evolves only when one dissociates from previous limitations. A person continues to operate with the mindset that suited their past circumstances, they will inevitably struggle to function in environments that demand higher precision, discipline, and resilience. Thus, separation facilitates identity reconstruction. It enables the individual to adopt behavioral patterns consistent with where they are going, not where they have been. A key observation is that separation does not always produce immediate external results. Instead, it creates the conditions necessary for growth. The early phases often involve silence, isolation, or a reduction in external validation because the transformation is occurring internally. The absence of recognition during this phase is not indicative of stagnation. Rather, it reflects the inherent delay between internal reconfiguration and external manifestation. Much like the restructuring of an organization or the reprogramming of a complex system, the evidence of improvement becomes visible only after foundational elements have been realigned. Moreover, separation enhances precision. External noise reduces and internal focus heightens. Individuals can make more accurate judgments about their goals, capabilities, and methods. They become more intentional in their choices and develop a heightened awareness of how their actions influence future outcomes. This precision allows them to eliminate unnecessary risks, refine their strategies, and make decisions based on long-term impact rather than immediate gratification. Such clarity is rarely achievable in environments that are overcrowded with distractions or misaligned influences. Ultimately, reaching the next level is an architectural process. It requires dismantling obsolete structures, redesigning foundational components, constructing systems capable of sustaining new demands. Separation is the first step in this architectural sequence. Without it, attempts at progress remain superficial, lacking the structural integrity needed to support significant growth. The individual must be willing to detach from what is familiar in order to transition into what is possible. Although the process may involve discomfort, temporary isolation, or difficult decisions, it is a non-negotiable component of meaningful elevation. Thus, separation is not merely an emotional experience, but a structural requirement for transformation. It enables individuals to refine their internal frameworks, recalibrate their environments, and establish alignment with their long-term objectives. When one chooses separation intentionally, they position themselves to evolve with greater precision, resilience, and clarity. The next level does not appear at random. It emerges when a person creates the conditions necessary for its arrival. Separation is the mechanism that opens that door, allowing the individual to step into a reality that matches the magnitude of their potential. In every journey of development, criticism is inevitable. People will form opinions based on limited information, outdated perceptions, or their own inner conflicts. Trying to verbally defend yourself against every misunderstanding not only drains your energy, but also distracts you from the path that actually elevates your life. True power comes when you stop responding with explanations and begin responding with evolution. The most effective answer to critics is not an argument, not a debate, not a defensive statement. It is the visible, undeniable transformation that time eventually reveals. Work has a voice. Growth has a voice. Transformation has a voice. And these voices speak far louder and far more convincingly than any words you could ever attempt to offer. When you channel your energy into proving something to others, you move away from the real purpose of your journey. You shift from authenticity to performance. You become reactive rather than intentional. Critics thrive on reaction. They depend on your emotional response because it validates their significance. When you remain committed to your work and let progress speak in its own time, you remove the power they assume they have over your direction. Silence, combined with progress, creates a form of authority that cannot be challenged. People eventually stop questioning your intentions because your results eliminate the need for explanation. Growth happens in layers. Those layers are often invisible in the early stages. Critics look at your current chapter without understanding the book you are writing. They judge the seed without knowing the tree it is destined to become. They assess your present without recognizing the discipline, the sacrifices, the failures, persistence that are shaping your future. When you choose to let your work speak, you trust the process instead of opinions. You acknowledge that results take time and that transformation is not a public performance, but a private commitment. This shift in focus allows you to build without the weight of external judgment influencing your decisions. There is a certain dignity that comes from being underestimated. It frees you from unnecessary pressure. It gives you room to grow without interference. People doubt you. It creates a silence around your efforts, a silence in which your work can develop without constant scrutiny. Many of the world's greatest transformations happened quietly behind closed doors while critics laughed or dismissed the journey. By the time the results appeared, the transformation was already too advanced to be denied. You owe it to yourself to grow at your own pace, not at the pace of those who watch you with skepticism. Criticism has a purpose. It tests your commitment. If your motivation collapses under the weight of someone else's opinion, then it was not rooted deeply enough. Letting your transformation answer your critics forces you to align with intrinsic motivation, motivation that is not dependent on praise or acceptance. This internal drive is what sustains long-term elevation. It is what allows you to continue even when no one believes, supports, or understands. Your actions stem from conviction instead of approval. You become unstoppable. And ironically, the same people who questioned you eventually become silent because your results contradict their assumptions. Transformation is also an undeniable teacher. It shows people the truth without you needing to say a word. When someone sees your consistency, your discipline, your increased clarity, your elevated behavior, your strengthened mind, and your improved outcomes, they are confronted with evidence they can no longer ignore. Opinions fade in the presence of results. Assumptions crumble in the presence of progress. Criticism loses power in the presence of transformation. You do not need to convince anyone when you are becoming someone they never expected you to become. At the same time, letting your work speak protects your emotional energy. The effort it takes to argue with critics can be redirected into building your future. Every moment spent explaining yourself is a moment taken away from the construction of the life you desire. You cannot rise and argue at the same time. Two require opposite directions of focus. Climbing demands forward movement, while defending requires turning backward. Letting your work answer your critics keeps your attention on the future instead of the unnecessary noise of the present. Growth has a unique way of shifting perspectives. People may not understand you now, but they will understand you later when your transformation is complete. The clarity you are cultivating, the discipline you are sharpening, and the mindset you are developing are all components of a future version of you that your critics cannot yet imagine. You are creating something that requires time, privacy, and patience. When it unfolds, the transformation will explain everything they once questioned. It will reveal the intention behind your silence, the purpose behind your discipline, and the strategy behind your decisions. Transformation also exposes the nature of your critics. As you grow, some will quietly disappear because your progress contradicts the image they created of you. Some will remain silent because they realize their opinions were based on incomplete information. Some will watch from a distance, trying to understand how you evolved in ways they never expected. And some will be forced to acknowledge that they misjudged you. In every case, your growth becomes the evidence they cannot refute. You do not need to address them. They will be addressed by the reality you have built. One of the most powerful aspects of letting your work speak is that it positions you for sustained success rather than temporary validation. Critics often react to the earliest parts of your journey, your learning phases, your mistakes, your experimentation. If you respond emotionally at that stage, you risk derailing your own progress. But when you remain focused and committed, you give yourself the space to develop skills, refine strategies, strengthen your foundation. Later, when your work matures, the same people who dismissed you will witness the outcomes of the discipline they underestimated. And at that moment, your transformation will do what your words never could. Ultimately, your critics are not the obstacle. Your reaction to them is. You understand this, you reclaim your power, you stop letting opinions distort your direction, you stop allowing doubt to interrupt your momentum, you stop giving attention to voices that have no role in your destiny. Your work becomes your language, your growth becomes your proof. Your transformation becomes your response. And when your evolution becomes undeniable, you realize you never needed to answer anyone. Your journey was always about becoming, not explaining. Your future was always built by action, not arguments. So let them talk. Let them assume, misunderstand. Your responsibility is not to correct their perception. It is to fulfill your purpose. In time, your transformation will reveal the truth with a clarity no explanation could match. Let your work speak. Let your growth speak. Let your transformation speak. And let silence protect your power until the results make all the noise you will ever need. There is a power in silence that the world often misunderstands. In a society obsessed with constant noise, endless commentary, and perpetual distraction, silence is often mistaken for weakness, emptiness, or indecision. In truth, silence is the womb in which transformation occurs. It is the sacred space where the spirit is restored, the mind is renewed, the soul is fortified. Silence is not a passive state. It is an active, deliberate process that allows for spiritual realignment and inner strengthening in ways that words, arguments, or actions cannot achieve. Spiritual realignment begins when the noise around us is reduced enough for us to hear what truly matters. Most people live their lives reacting to the opinions, expectations, and judgments of others. They are pulled in multiple directions, distracted by constant commentary, and entangled in endless external narratives. In this chaos, it is impossible to hear the quiet voice within, the voice that knows your purpose, understands your potential, and guides your decisions. Silence creates the pause necessary to disentangle yourself from the external, to reflect, and to reconnect with the divine order of your own journey. Inner strengthening also takes root in silence. Strength is not merely physical or mental, it is also spiritual. It is the fortitude to withstand trials, the resilience to recover from setbacks, and the courage to maintain integrity when tested. Inner strength develops when we are alone with ourselves, when we confront our fears, when we face our shortcomings, and when we take responsibility for our growth. Silence provides the environment for this kind of development. It gives us the chance to reflect on our decisions, analyze our mistakes, and adjust our approach without the pressure of an audience or the interference of distraction. In the quiet, we find clarity. When life is noisy, clarity is impossible. Our thoughts become scattered, our emotions react impulsively, and our judgment becomes clouded. Silence allows us to slow down, to organize our thoughts, and to evaluate our experiences objectively. This is the moment when we can identify what no longer serves us, what patterns we need to change, and what habits we must reinforce. It is in this sacred stillness that spiritual alignment occurs, the realignment of our actions, our priorities, our mindset with the higher purpose that we were created to fulfill. Silence also cultivates discernment. When we are removed from the constant chatter of opinions and distractions, we can more accurately assess people, situations, and opportunities. We can recognize who truly supports our growth and who seeks to limit us, can see which choices align with our higher calling and which decisions are distractions. This discernment is essential for inner strengthening because it ensures that our energy is invested in what truly matters, protects our spirit from being depleted by unnecessary conflict or misplaced effort. The practice of silence also develops patience. In silence, we learn to wait, to endure, and to trust the timing of our journey. Spiritual growth and inner fortitude are not instantaneous. They require time, discipline, repeated practice. Silence teaches us that not every answer will come immediately, that not every solution is visible, that not every breakthrough occurs on our schedule. By embracing stillness, we cultivate the patience to allow our growth to unfold naturally, trusting that alignment will happen in the right season. Moreover, silence fosters self-reflection, which is the cornerstone of personal transformation. When we are silent, we can examine our beliefs, our values, and our intentions. We can ask ourselves difficult questions about why we act the way we do, what motivates our decisions, and how we can improve. These reflections lead to profound insights, which in turn lead to deeper spiritual awareness and personal maturity. The more time we spend in this quiet examination, the stronger our inner foundation becomes because we are no longer operating unconsciously, we are operating with awareness and intention. In addition, silence allows for healing. Life inflicts wounds, emotional, mental, spiritual, that often go unnoticed when we are constantly surrounded by noise. Silence creates the space for these wounds to surface and be addressed. It allows us to process grief, release anger, forgive, go of what no longer serves our spiritual growth. Healing is an essential component of inner strengthening because an unhealed spirit is vulnerable to setbacks and negativity. Through silence, we can rebuild our inner resilience and emerge stronger than before. Silence also nurtures gratitude and perspective. When we remove the distractions of the external world, we can focus on what is truly valuable. We can reflect on our blessings, appreciate our progress, gain perspective on challenges. This spiritual recalibration reinforces our sense of purpose and strengthens our resolve to continue moving forward despite obstacles. Gratitude in silence reminds us that our growth is not only personal, but also aligned with a larger divine order that supports our journey when we are patient and disciplined. Another profound benefit of silence is the alignment of action with intention. Often, people act hastily or reactively because they have not taken the time to reflect. Silence allows for intentionality. It gives us the opportunity to consider our next steps, weigh their consequences, and align them with our higher purpose. This deliberate approach reduces mistakes, increases focus, and ensures that our actions support our long-term vision. In this way, inner strengthening is reinforced by strategic, purpose-driven action rather than impulsive reaction. Silence is also a tool for spiritual communication. Whether through prayer, meditation, or introspective contemplation, quiet moments allow for connection with the divine, with higher wisdom, or with one's inner self. In silence, we can hear guidance that is otherwise drowned out by the noise of daily life. We can receive insight, direction, and confirmation of our path. This connection strengthens the spirit, builds confidence in our journey, reinforces the alignment between our inner purpose and our external actions. Ultimately, silence is not simply the absence of sound. It is the presence of focus, clarity, and spiritual potency. It creates the environment necessary for realignment, introspection, healing, discernment, and disciplined action. It allows us to separate ourselves from distractions, align with our higher purpose, strengthen our inner foundation. The more we embrace periods of intentional silence, the more resilient, focused, and spiritually aligned we become. The habits we develop in these quiet moments carry us through the storms of life, enabling us to rise above challenges with grace and conviction. In conclusion, silence is not empty space, it is fertile ground. It is the crucible in which spiritual realignment occurs and inner strength is forged. Stepping back from the noise of the world, reflecting deeply on our journey, and committing to growth in quiet, we cultivate resilience, clarity, and alignment. The next time you feel the urge to react, to explain, or to rush, remember that silence is not inactivity, it is preparation. It is the sacred process by which your spirit is refined, your purpose is clarified. Inner strength is fortified for the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. Silence is power. Silence is growth. Silence is the pathway to spiritual realignment and inner strengthening. In life, one of the greatest tests of maturity, vision, and strength is the ability to resist distractions, especially the distractions of unnecessary conflict. Too many people spend their energy trying to prove themselves in arguments, debates, or verbal confrontations that accomplish little and cost far more than they are worth. While others are arguing, you could be building. While others are defending themselves, you could be creating. While others are consumed by proving a point, you could be expanding your impact, your influence, your life. Staying focused on building, not arguing, is one of the most powerful decisions you can make if you want to rise above mediocrity and achieve long-term success. Arguments are often rooted in ego, pride, insecurity. People argue because they feel the need to be right, to be validated, or to assert dominance. But arguments rarely lead to meaningful progress. They may win a temporary sense of satisfaction, but they rarely produce lasting value. Building, on the other hand, produces tangible results. Building creates legacy, wealth, influence, knowledge, and opportunity. The person who focuses on construction, the creation of ideas, relationships, infrastructure, builds something that survives beyond fleeting opinions. They understand that time is the most valuable currency, and once spent in conflict, cannot be reclaimed. Staying focused on building requires vision. When you have a clear sense of purpose, goals, and direction, arguments lose their power over you. You no longer feel the need to defend your actions or justify your choices to people who will never fully understand your journey. You recognize that every moment spent explaining yourself, debating, or arguing could have been invested in developing skills, pursuing opportunities, or strengthening your foundation. Vision allows you to see the difference between productive energy and wasted energy. It teaches you that your attention is the most critical resource you possess, and you cannot afford to squander it on unnecessary disputes. Building also requires discipline. Unlike arguments, which may provide immediate gratification or a sense of victory, creation requires sustained effort, focus, and consistency. You must resist the temptation to engage with critics, naysayers, or people who thrive on controversy. Every argument can pull you off track, drain your emotional energy, and create mental clutter. The builder, however, cultivates patience, persistence, and strategic thinking. They understand that real progress is measured over time, not by the ability to win a debate in the moment. Act of building over arguing also demonstrates emotional intelligence. When you choose to focus on creation rather than confrontation, you show mastery over your impulses, pride, and reactions. You recognize that your worth is not determined by who believes in you or who challenges you, by the results of your labor and the integrity of your actions. Emotional intelligence allows you to navigate challenges without being consumed by them. It helps you maintain focus on what truly matters: growth, impact, and contribution. It teaches you that the most powerful responses are not words, but results. Another critical aspect of focusing on building is the multiplier effect it creates. While others are caught in repetitive cycles of debate, those who focus on constructing, innovating, and growing accumulate skills, resources, and influence. Every hour spent building compounds over time, whereas hours spent arguing rarely add value. The person who builds becomes unstoppable because their progress generates momentum that criticism, doubt, conflict cannot stop. Over time, the results of focused effort will speak louder than the loudest arguments. In essence, action outpaces words. Creation outlasts criticism. Staying focused on building also protects your reputation. Arguments can escalate, be misinterpreted, leave lasting negative impressions. They often ignite unnecessary tension and can damage relationships, credibility, and influence. Builders, however, operate from a place of purpose and integrity. They demonstrate their value through tangible contributions rather than verbal sparring. Over time, this approach attracts respect, allies, and opportunities, while arguing often repels them. By prioritizing construction over conflict, you cultivate an image of competence, reliability, and maturity. Focus on building fosters innovation and problem solving. When your mind is consumed with creation, you are more likely to discover solutions, develop strategies, and recognize opportunities that others miss. In contrast, arguments tend to reinforce existing positions, narrow perspectives, and generate tension without producing solutions. Builders understand that challenges are meant to be overcome, not merely debated. They channel their energy into crafting answers rather than justifying positions, and in doing so, they consistently move closer to their goals. Silence is a companion to building. In choosing to remain quiet when provoked, misunderstood, or criticized, you create space for reflection, strategy, deliberate action. Silence does not indicate passivity. It indicates control. It allows you to observe, learn, and respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Builders know that reaction rarely produces results, but deliberate action does. By resisting the impulse to argue, they gain the clarity and focus necessary to produce impactful work. Prioritizing building also reinforces resilience. Life is filled with obstacles, detractors, and setbacks. Arguments may temporarily relieve frustration, but they do not equip you to overcome challenges. Building, however, strengthens problem-solving skills, sharpens strategic thinking, and develops perseverance. Trains you to face adversity with practical solutions rather than wasting energy on verbal confrontation. Over time, this resilience becomes a distinguishing factor between those who achieve their goals and those who are trapped in cycles of debate and distraction. The principle of focusing on building extends to every aspect of life, career, relationship, personal growth, and spiritual development. In your career, it means prioritizing skill development, project completion, and networking over defending your reputation or arguing over minor slights. In relationships, it means investing time and energy into meaningful connections, mutual growth, and understanding rather than engaging in petty conflicts. In personal growth, it means reading, learning, and practicing discipline rather than proving your knowledge to skeptics. In spiritual life, it means aligning actions with values rather than arguing over beliefs or interpretations. In all cases, building produces long-term impact, while arguing produces short-term noise. Ultimately, staying focused on building is a choice of alignment. It is a decision to invest energy in creation rather than consumption, in solutions rather than complaints, in legacy rather than validation. Builders understand that life rewards those who produce, create, and persevere, not those who argue endlessly about who is right or wrong. By maintaining focus, discipline, and vision, you ensure that your energy is spent on what truly moves you forward, while your critics, detractors, unnecessary conflicts are rendered irrelevant by your progress. In conclusion, the choice to build over argue is not just strategic, it is transformative. It shapes character, develops resilience, preserves focus, and generates lasting results. Every moment spent constructing, innovating, and improving compounds over time, producing results that silence critics, demonstrate value, and create influence that arguments could never achieve. Stay focused on building, not arguing. Prioritize creation over conflict, action over reaction, and results over validation. Your work, your progress, and your impact will speak louder than any debate, and your life will reflect the power of discipline, focus, and vision in ways that words alone never could. There is a profound truth in life that many fail to understand. Silence is not weakness, and stillness is not inactivity. Often, we withhold words, guard our hearts, and protect our energy not because we lack strength or clarity, because we know that time and action will speak louder than explanations ever could. There comes a moment in every journey when the weight of misunderstanding, judgment, or doubt is placed upon your shoulders. People question your motives. They misinterpret your actions. They speculate about your intentions. They assume the worst because your silence leaves room for imagination. And yet, your silence is not empty. It is deliberate, strategic, and powerful. It is the prelude to elevation, and the full truth will reveal itself when the time is right. Elevation is the natural outcome of growth, discipline, and perseverance. It is the point at which your consistent effort, focus, and integrity begin to produce undeniable results. While you have remained silent, have formed their narratives based on their limited understanding. They have assumed, judged, and criticized. But elevation does not need validation, does not need justification. It does not need to argue, explain, or defend. When your life rises to the next level, the transformation becomes so evident, so undeniable, and so impactful that all assumptions collapse under the weight of reality. Your actions and achievements will communicate what words never could. Silence in this context is a form of protection. It shields your progress from those who would attempt to derail it with negativity, doubt, or distraction. Every word spoken is an opportunity for misinterpretation, and every argument is a potential drain on your energy. By remaining silent, you preserve your focus and protect your momentum. Your elevation, when it finally arrives, validates the patience and discipline of your silence. The years of quiet preparation, the consistent work behind closed doors, unseen sacrifices, these all culminate in a revelation that speaks more loudly than any explanation could ever achieve. The timing of elevation is also critical. Just because you are silent today does not mean that your story will remain incomplete. Life operates on seasons. There is a season for preparation, a season for action, and a season for revelation. When you are in the preparation phase, your silence is necessary. You are learning, growing, and equipping yourself for the challenges and responsibilities of the next level. You are building a foundation strong enough to support the weight of what you are destined to carry. And while others may speculate or misjudge, your faith in the process ensures that your elevation, when it comes, will be authentic, undeniable, and powerful. There is an extraordinary power in letting life itself testify to your integrity and vision. People often demand explanations because they lack perspective. They cannot see the bigger picture, and they cannot comprehend the strategy behind your actions. True elevation does not need to satisfy curiosity. It needs to demonstrate results. It teaches people without debate. Your journey has always been intentional. It reveals that your choices, your discipline, and your patience were never random, but part of a grand design that only time could reveal. When you reach your elevated state, the narrative that once required defense becomes irrelevant. Elevation also reveals character. The person who rises silently through challenges, criticism, misunderstanding demonstrates qualities that words cannot capture: resilience, discipline, focus, patience, and integrity. These are the traits that explain why your results are not accidents, why your progress is sustainable, why your life carries influence beyond mere circumstance. While others may have questioned your ability, misjudged your intentions, or mocked your restraint, your elevated reality shows them that true strength does not seek approval. It simply emerges. Your silence is not a void. It is a repository of preparation, insight, and strategy. In the quiet, you learn to observe without reacting, to analyze without anger, and to plan without pressure. You discover who truly matters, who supports your vision, and who is aligned with your journey. You grow in wisdom and discernment, which ensures that when your elevation arrives, it is not shallow or fleeting, but deeply rooted. Your success will not be a momentary triumph, but a reflection of consistent effort, intentional decision-making, and unwavering focus. In this way, silence is both a shield and a tool. It preserves your energy while preparing you for the inevitable reveal of your elevation. There is also a liberating quality in knowing that explanations are unnecessary. When you understand that your results, not your words, carry weight, you are freed from the need to seek validation from those who misunderstand you. The quiet becomes empowering because it allows you to conserve your energy, focus on your goals, and trust that life will eventually demonstrate the truth. Elevation, when it comes, does not just answer critics. It transforms them. Teaches them, by example, that patience, consistency, and perseverance are more powerful than arguments, debates, or defensive words. When your elevation is revealed, it also inspires. Others see that growth, discipline, and silent perseverance produce results that are undeniable. They witness the manifestation of effort that was once invisible. Your elevation becomes a blueprint for others, a demonstration that quiet preparation, strategic patience, and resilience create a life that speaks louder than explanations ever could. People are drawn to results, not rhetoric. They respect transformation, not justification. They are influenced by authenticity, not argument. Your elevated life becomes a testimony to the power of restraint and the wisdom of trusting the process. The most significant transformations in history, business and personal development, follow this pattern. The quiet years of work, discipline, and preparation always precede moments of undeniable elevation. People may question, doubt, or criticize in the meantime, but their opinions do not determine outcomes. Time always reveals truth. Those who have mastered the art of silent preparation understand that the reveal is inevitable and that it will be far more powerful than any immediate defense could ever be. When the time is right, the elevation itself does the speaking. Finally, silence paired with elevation teaches humility and gratitude. The journey of quiet preparation fosters awareness that progress is earned, not demanded. When your elevation is revealed, it is not a tool for ego, but a reflection of discipline, patience, and alignment with purpose. You understand that true power does not come from arguing to be understood, from creating a life that demonstrates understanding without words. Your silence, once questioned or misinterpreted, now becomes a symbol of wisdom, restraint, and strategic focus. In conclusion, silence is not emptiness, it is preparation. Patience is not passivity, it is alignment. When the time is right, your elevation will reveal everything your silence never explained. It will answer questions, correct misconceptions, and demonstrate truths that words could never convey. It will validate your choices, your discipline, and your perseverance. And it will teach everyone who doubted, questioned, or misunderstood that the power of transformation is always louder than the noise of criticism. Let silence be your strategy. Let growth be your response. Let elevation be your revelation. The right time will come, and when it does, the world will see everything your silence always knew.